Today we will be creating a project, but first, let me tell you a little about our museum. Welcome to the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. We are an art museum and gardens that is located in Memphis, Tennessee, not far from the University of Memphis and the Botanical Gardens. As you walk through the doors of our museum, you will be welcomed with both art and flowers of all kinds. Once you have found your way past the special exhibits, you will find the Dixon residence. Did you know that the Dixon started as the home of Hugo and Margaret Dixon? They had an art collection of 6 sculptures and 27 paintings. That became the start of the Dixon Museum's permanent collection. These works of art are very special because many are from Impressionist and Post-Impressionist artists in Europe and America. Impressionism started in France in the 1860s with a small group of artists you may have heard of. Claude Monet, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas. Do any of those names sound familiar? You are looking at some of the paintings of these very artists. Their paintings are truly amazing and very colorful. You can see the big brushstrokes, and in some places where they didn't even bother mixing the colors at all. What fun it must have been to get to paint like an Impressionist. You too can paint like an Impressionist with your own paints. If you want to get a closer look at these amazing paintings, we would love to have you visit us. We are always free, every day, even weekends, except for Mondays, which is the day we are closed. That day, we get our museum and gardens nice and ready for our guests for the rest of the week. We hope to see you soon. Now that we've learned a little bit more about the Dixon, let's take a look at some of the other works in our permanent collection. Then we can work on our project. Are you ready to have some fun?
Do you know the difference between the city and the country? What do you think this is a painting of? If you said city, you're right. In a city, there are lots of different kinds of buildings, businesses, homes, and other buildings that are very close together. People usually live very close together and may live in an apartment. A lot of people take public transportation like buses or subways instead of driving, especially in large cities. How is that different from the country? In the country, people usually live in houses instead of apartments, and they're farther apart. Instead of office buildings and corporations, you may see things more like farms. Look at this painting. Do you think it pictures the city or the country? Where do you live? Do you live in a city? Do you live in the country? Or do you live in the suburbs? Suburbs are kind of like a mix of the city and the country. A suburb may be outside of the city, where people live in houses that are a little bit farther apart, but it's easy to drive into the city where people may work. Today, we'll be making a 3D lantern that depicts either the city or the country. We'll be using black paper, scissors and glue, and a pencil. We'll use some tissue paper to collage one side so that it's very colorful, and we'll use a battery-powered tea light. We're going to glue all of our tissue paper and black paper onto a clear plastic film today that will roll up into a cylinder shape. Decide what you want to draw today. You can draw a city, the country, or a suburb.
The very first thing we're going to do is draw the outline of whatever you have chosen, the city, the suburb, or the landscape. Now you're going to use pencil, but I am using a white colored pencil just so you can see it on the camera. And what we're going to do is we're going to use simple shapes, just like rectangles, squares, triangles, those types of things, and we're going to build on that. So if you have a city, you can use all of those shapes just jumbled straight together, close together, because that's what a city is. All those shapes super close together. The suburbs have a little bit more land in between, so you may want to have some straight lines in between those shapes. And then, of course, the landscape, the country, you may want to have a simple shape for a building, but then maybe some curved lines for the land, and then maybe a tree or something along those lines for your landscape. Now we want to draw X's on the lines that we do not want to cut. It helps us remember that those lines are just there because it helped us draw the city, the suburb, or the landscape. But we want to remember we don't want to cut those buildings out. We want to keep it a nice outline for our lantern. We want it in all one piece. So those X's are going to be reminders for us that we are not going to cut that line or that shape out. Cut your city or landscape out using the outline. Put some glue all over the side of your city or landscape where you drew the X's. We're going to glue it to the bottom of our clear plastic. Now we're going to add some lights, and we get to add those lights with metallic Sharpie. So we're going to do that by adding different shapes, rectangles, squares, circles, wherever you want on your black paper outline. Next, we're going to work on the sky. So we're going to turn the plastic sheet over back to where we see our original drawing of our basic shapes. And then we're going to take any color tissue paper that we see and like and our glue stick. We're going to work in small sections and glue right on top of the plastic. And then we're going to place our tissue paper in any way we wish, even on top of some of the black parts. The goal is to cover every bit of that plastic part that we can see. So flipping back over, if you need to see how your progress is to cover up all of that beautiful sky. You don't want to see anything between the buildings and the sky. If you have any tissue paper sticking out past the edge of your plastic, you can trim it with scissors. To make our lantern shape, we'll roll our plastic film into a cylinder and tape it in place. Get a grown-up's help if you need to. Our last step is to put a tea light inside the lantern. We'll turn it on and turn off the lights so you can see it glow.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll visit the Dixon soon, and as always, stay creative!